Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Love Letters, Romantic Reads for Your Shelf. I'm Donna Seaman, Adult Books Editor at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need a technical assistance, simply click the Q&A and type your message into the box. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we will pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Links to today's slides and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located here and there. You can also download these materials at any time by copying the URLs onto the screen in your web browser. We have an amazing lineup today. We have the pleasure of hearing from Margaret Coffey, Director of Sales for Schools, Libraries, and Independent Bookstores at Sourcebooks. We have Leigh Mays, Marketing Assistant at HarperCollins Publishers. We have Amanda Roundtree, the Assistant Digital Media Manager at Macmillan. And yay, 2 librarians to speak with us today, Beth Atwater, Collection Development Librarian at Johnson County Library in Johnson County, Kansas, and Amy Alessio, author and librarian at Dominican University's School of Information Studies. First, we will hear from Margaret Coffey. Margaret is what you might call a senior publishing professional, having toiled in both sales and marketing for decades. Before joining Sourcebooks 5 years ago, she worked at a variety of publishers on such little properties as Harry Potter and The Hunger Games. Margaret has traveled with the beloved original stuffed animal Winnie the Pooh. A voracious reader, she enjoys historical and contemporary fiction, fantasy, and memoirs. Margaret says she's now relegated to reading at home since she can no longer travel to visit us and to attend conferences, but that's going to end. Welcome, Margaret. So glad you're here.
Good afternoon, and greetings from the Chicago suburbs on this lovely rainy day. Thanks for the introduction, Donna. Sourcebooks is so excited to be part of Booklist Romance webinar, and I'm looking forward to telling you about new titles from favorite authors, new series, and debuts. I certainly miss seeing everyone in person, and thank you for your continued support. Sourcebooks Casablanca is the romance imprint from the largest woman-owned independent publisher in the US. We publish 6 to 8 romance novels per month. Whether you love historical, suspense, paranormal, Western, or contemporary, Casa guarantees a compelling love story with a super satisfying happily ever after. I hope you will follow us on social media and download our galleys on Edelweiss and NetGalley. And please sign up for one of our newsletters. Every month, we partner exclusively with Overdrive on the Head Over Heels book discussion group, where we feature author interviews, discussion guides, and promotional pricing. Please contact Overdrive to be part of this group. If you'd like to meet with any of our authors virtually, just let us know. And I just want to make a quick plug for 2 of my recent favorites, Conventionally Yours and Boyfriend Material. And now, on to our new books. No Sourcebooks romance presentation would be complete without Susanna Kearsley. If you're a fan of Susanna's, as I am, you won't want to miss The Deadly Hours, which is published by our mystery imprint, Poison Pen Press. Suzanne edited this anthology of 4 mystery novellas tied together by a priceless and cursed watch. Kearsley and historical mystery novelists Anna Lee Hoover, Christine Trent, and C.S. Harris bring back their most popular characters from earlier novels and weave the tale of the watch as it passes through time, wreaking havoc from one owner to another. The characters are irrevocably linked by fate, each playing a key role in breaking the curse and destroying the watch once and for all. From 1733 Italy to Edinburgh in 1831 to a series of chilling murders in 1870 London and a lethal game of revenge during World War II decades later, the watch touches lives with misfortune until it comes into the reach of one young woman who might be able to stop it for good. Northern Exposure meets the Gilmore Girls in this winning mix of two popular elements, Alaska and romantic comedy. Moose Springs, Alaska is back as the backdrop for two new romances by Sarah Morgenthaler, which are companions to the tourist attraction. In Mistletoe and Mr. Right, Lana Montgomery has loved Moose Springs since she was a child, and she's determined to show she belongs, but she's getting the cold shoulder from the locals. When an elusive and vengeful moose comes to town, hell-bent on destroying everyone's decorations, Lana agrees to help rid Moose Springs of the antlered menace in the hopes of winning the town over for good. Rick Harding has been hit hard with a painful divorce and failing business. He's barely scraping by, and he fully expects an eviction notice for Christmas. But when Lana accidentally tranquilizes him instead of the Santa Moose, it's obvious they both need a little holiday help. The trilogy wraps up with Enjoy the View. River Lane's acting career is tanking fast. Determined to start fresh behind the camera, she'll take whatever job she can get, including filming a documentary about the picturesque town of Moose Springs. When Mountaineer and Moose Springs local Easton Lockett sees what looks like a woman on her own in the wilderness, of course he offers to help. The last thing he expects is to interrupt a film shoot and earn River's wrath. But Easton has an idea. He can take River's crew up the local hidden gem, Mount Vale, to make it up to her. But when bad weather strikes, putting the film crew at risk, it takes all of his skills to get them back down safely and to keep River in his arms. In Deep is the second book in the sexy and action-packed contemporary romance series, The Blackwood Brothers, from best-selling BIPOC author Blue Sapphire. In Deep is an own voices romance with a diverse cast of characters which readers can relate to. Private investigator Kevin Blackheart is more than a little miffed when he gets a call that the police have picked up his brother's defiant son. When Kevin arrives at his old precinct, he expects his connections to get him in and out of the door. What he's not expecting are the sparks that fly between him and the gorgeous detective who has an agenda of her own. Detective Danita Morales has been undercover investigating crooked cops for so long, she's not sure who's good or bad anymore. But encountering Kevin while she's trying to get essential information out of his nephew has all her instincts on high alert. He's definitely one of the good guys. If only everything about him didn't make her want to be oh so bad. Happy Singles Day is the first in a hilarious rom-com series by author Anne Marie Walker, featuring the hottest, most popular hashtag holidays. Paige Parker proudly celebrates Singles Day on February 15th every single year. Who needs a man anyway? They have zero taste in quality television, leave the toilet seat up, and sleep with your best friend. No thanks. The owner of a rundown B&B, widower single dad, Lucas Cross' life is simple and quiet. It's him and his 5-year-old daughter. Who needs a woman? They nag you to clean up your stuff, want the toilet seat put down, and expect the dishes to be done the same day the meal is served. Nope, no thanks. Of course, Paige and Lucas's two worlds collide with hilarious results and a happily ever after. Here for You is the second in the emotional, poignant romantic women's fiction series, Family is Forever, by acclaimed inspirational romance author, Pat Simmons. In Here for You, a hero and heroine who are better at taking care of other people than themselves have a dark moment that shakes their faith and makes them realize that caregivers sometimes need a little TLC too. Rachel Nicely has put her own life on hold for 6 months to take care of her great aunt who has Alzheimer's. Putting her aunt first was an easy decision, but accepting the fact that Aunt Tweed is nearing the end of her battle is just too difficult. Nicholas Adams has been visiting the sick and comforting those in need for years, but when he meets Rachel and Aunt Tweed, he's surprised that Rachel is the one who needs him most. He's falling for her too, but Aunt Tweed's worsening condition and Rachel's own devastating news might take his resolve to the breaking point. A couple of my recent contemporary favorites before I tell you about new books. I hope you've had a chance to read the latest from Jackie Ashton, Sharon Sala, and Katie Golden. A Tale for Two is second in a fun, funny contemporary romance series, Fur Haven Dog Park, about the passions and perils, who knew, of a local dog park in trendy Miami Beach. Lance Donovan reluctantly agrees to help his younger brother with renovations to an old Miami Beach apartment building. A fateful afternoon visit to the local dog park reveals to Lance that he has a young son he never knew about. In a shocking turn of events, Lance, who never wanted children, now finds himself babysitting his adorable son and pet sitting, not only for his brother's dog, but for the beloved Jack Russell Terrier he had to leave behind in his divorce. Will this new life of co-parenting bring Lance and his ex-wife Carrie closer together, or only remind them why they couldn't make their marriage work in the first place? Ride the Tide is third in New York Times and USA Today bestselling author Julianne Walker's hot romantic suspense series, The Deep Six, featuring former Navy SEALs, and a companion to Hell or High Water and Devil in the Deep. Weary of the life of a fighting man and burned by a bad divorce, former SEAL Mason McCarthy is tight-lipped and determined to avoid the fair sex. Unfortunately, he can't avoid one particular member of that club when she joins him and his business partners in the hunt for the Santa Cristina. Historian Alexandra Merriweather has a motor mouth and a penchant for pushing Mason's buttons. When a dangerous man from Mason's past threatens their lives and everything they are working towards, Mason must rely on old instincts and the skills honed from years running black ops to make sure nothing from his previous life touches Alex's present. Walking the Edge is the first book in the sexy new romantic suspense series Danger in the Big Easy by author Susan Ward Drake and set in sultry New Orleans. On the knife edge of danger in the streets of New Orleans, 3 ex-military brothers call the Big Easy home, and they'll do whatever it takes to protect their own. Ex-Army Ranger Mitch Guidry is back in the Big Easy with something to prove. Mitch has mere days to find and arrest his fugitive, and the week before Fat Tuesday to boot. His best chance lies with Catherine Hurley, the oh-so-tough redhead who fires his blood. But gaining her trust is going to be harder than any military mission. Both Mitch and Kath have a sibling who is hearing impaired, and that's the first of many things they discover they have in common. Their protective instincts begin to extend to each other until they discover the true meaning of family. Jackson is the first in the Restoration Ranch series, a hot new contemporary cowboy series by award-winning author Laquette. Jackson Dean doesn't trust love. He made the mistake of following his heart once, and all he's gotten was pain and a sullied reputation. But when city slicker do-gooder Asia Everett needs his help, he can't stay away, and she may be just the thing needed to restore trust in the heart of this Texas Ranger. Asia Everett will get herself into trouble if she's not careful dealing with the ex-con she's hired to work Restoration Ranch. At least that's what the ruggedly handsome ranger keeps telling her. But as the threats keep coming, things heat up between the two, and Asia realizes Jackson has her heart in a whole new kind of trouble. Earl's Well That Ends Well is a gorgeous Regency romance from beloved and best-selling author Jane Ashford, featuring noble gentlemen and the spirited women who lead them to love. The book takes you to a glittering world of revelations and romance, where a lonely earl can find love where he least expects it. Arthur Shelton, Earl of Macmillan, has helped 4 young noblemen recover from grief and find love, but he's learned to live his own life as a widower. Yet when he returns home after traveling, his estate feels too empty and he quickly heads to London. There he encounters Teresa Alvarez de Granada, a charming Spanish noblewoman, and is immediately entranced. There's no room for earls in this quiet, safe life Teresa's finally found for herself. The earl might be charming and handsome, but she knows firsthand how dangerous attraction can be. But the more determined Teresa is to discourage Arthur, the more entangled they get, and it's only a matter of time before her respect for him starts to feel a little like love. I'd like to tell you about 2 new cowboy titles. In standalone wild cowboy country, Park Ranger Lacey Montgomery and rancher Clay Stevens are on opposite sides of a thorny issue. Lacey has spent her career reintroducing wolves to Rocky Ridge National Park and now oversees the welfare of the pack. Clay has struggled for years to make a success of his historic ranch he inherited and is tired of losing his calves to a predator. Who has more right to the land? Linda Broday's Once Upon a Mail Order Bride is the 4th in the stunning Outlaw Mail Order Bride series, featuring tough Texas outlaws and the women who steal their hearts. USA Today bestselling author Catherine Levesque's Scots and Swords series debuted in August with Highland Gladiator. Highland Defender will arrive next January. The sizzling historical series is set in the Scottish Highlands at Ludus, Caledonia, where men become warriors, and these brawny lairds will learn all the skills they need to defend their homes and the lassies who claim their hearts. For Outlander fans, try Eliza Knight's Prince Charlie's Angel series. In The Rebel Wears Plaid and Truly Madly Plaid, join the Jacobite fight as our heroes and heroines passionately risk everything to fight for their country to reinstate their king. Check out the latest paranormal titles from powerhouse writers Maria Vale, Paige Tyler, and Isabel Cooper. In these acclaimed and strikingly original paranormal books, expect to encounter action-packed romantic suspense. And finally, let's celebrate the holidays with our favorite authors. We're publishing new holiday titles for every genre: cowboy, contemporary, Regency, paranormal, and puppies. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for listening, and please email me with any questions. Remember to download our galleys, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Margaret. That was wonderful. And now, Leigh Mays. Leigh is the marketing assistant of the library marketing team at HarperCollins, and literary team too. She produces and hosts the Library Love Fest podcast. You can listen to author interviews with Library Read winners and lots of other fun content from the Library Love Fest team. You can find this on SoundCloud at Library Love Fest. Welcome, Leigh.
Hi, thank you, Donna. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. This is my favorite webinar because I get to use way too many hearts. As you can see, I took liberty already. So hello, and I tried to put a lot of these links in your notes of the titles discussed. So if I leave anything out, feel free to email me, and let's get started. So just a quick few things. We have audio e-galleys now. So all of that information is on there. We're so excited to have all of these great authors, including Written in the Stars, which is a romance. So please check that out. And then next we have our podcast slide. And we've had so many great episodes, but I just wanted to highlight Scarlett Peckham, who spoke to her editor. One of my favorite episodes we've done, and we have really great romance ones. So I hope you listen anywhere you get a podcast. And next, I just want to really quickly tell you that we have a weekly Facebook Live series. I've highlighted and read all of our romance authors that we've had on, or people who have romance in their book. So you can watch that on Facebook or after the fact on YouTube. And next, we have our world famous book buzz coming up, 90 minutes. Register and get updates. We'll hope to see you there. And then just the next slide is a little bit of a friendly reminder. Don't forget about these audio e-galley of Written in the Stars. All right, let's get into some titles. So first off, How to Catch a Queen by Alyssa Cole, coming out in December. Finally, everyone has been waiting for this. And this actually, when they shot the cover for this, the Today Show covered it. They went to the shoot. They were so excited. That's how excited everyone was. And we all love Alyssa Cole, the award-winning author of historical, contemporary, and sci-fi romances. She's back, and she's launching her new series, The Runaway Royals, which is a spin-off of her widely popular Reluctant Royal series. And in this, Shanti marries King Sanyu and in an arranged marriage. That kind of is what he thinks that they have to do. He doesn't expect to fall in love. The people in the kingdom do not take well to an outsider. And when they kind of come to a trouble in their marriage in the kingdom, Shanti goes on the run, and Sanyu has to figure out like how he's going to run this kingdom, but also catch his queen that maybe he is falling for. And we love Alyssa's take on modern royalty so much that it garnered this spin-off series. Old fans and new will love it and come to her, and characters in this book were introduced in a print on paper, so you'll be a little familiar with them. And we're so happy for this booklist starred review. Cole's contemporary romance shine with unique settings and complex characters. So next slide is 10 Things I Hate About the Duke by Loretta Chase, coming out in December as well. Loretta Chase is finally back. She's RW Reader Award-winning and USA Today bestselling author, the author of like one of the most undisputed, most beloved historicals of all time. She's so great and just a legend and she's back with this new installment of her Difficult Duke series, which began with The Duke in Shining Arbor in 2017. It follows a group of friends called the Disgraces, and they compete for the title of the worst Duke in London. And if you love Dukes and rakes behaving badly, it's for you. And as Loretta says on her website, in short, they're, the Dukes, in dire need of a shakeup, and it is my great pleasure to create just the ladies to provide it. And this book is a twist on Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. The next slide is The Flip Side by James Bailey, coming out in November. And this is such a fun and unique rom-com about leaving your life to fate. We're so excited to have this debut romantic comedy from British author James Bailey. It's our first male-authored rom-com, so unique. We're excited to have it. It's very Nick Hornby-esque, and Hornsby-esque, and Josh is going through a quarter-life crisis. His long-term girlfriend has left. He's moved back with mom and dad, and he's lost his job. So maybe he would be better off just leaving his decisions to fate and flip him a coin. And this joke kind of turns into what he actually does. And when a girl comes in that could possibly be the love of his life, he's going to have to decide if the coin's enough to give him the right guidance. If you subscribe to our podcast, we have an episode with James and his editor coming very soon, so I hope you'll look out for that. Next, we have First Comes Like by Alicia Wright. I know you're so excited for this. This is the third in a modern love series. The Right Swipe and Girl Gone Viral, both library read selections, and this third one is, of course we have to cover the ultimate digital dating woe, catfishing. If you love that show, then this is perfect for you. And there's a bit of Cyrano vibe, the fake dating trope. It's always a winner. And we turn to Gia's story in this book. So we've met her before, and in this we've had a brief meeting with her in other books, but we really get to hear more from this beauty influencer who has no time for love. But when Dev, the son of a powerful Bollywood family and soap opera star, slides into her DM, she's there. She falls hard, but the only catch is when she meets him, he doesn't know who she is. So he has to decide who is using his name. And after it kind of gets out in the tabloids, they start a fake romance to kind of throw people off, and that maybe a fake romance will turn into a real life romance. But Alicia brings her signature fun and heat to the modern world of dating, which is really an interesting thing to explore in romance novels. Next, we have The Love Square by Laura Jane Williams, coming out in February. Laura is the best-selling author of Our Stop, and if you haven't had a chance to read Our Stop, it's such an awesome rom-com, very different and fun, very British, which we all love. And this one is another fun romance. It's heartfelt and witty, and it would just make you fall in love with the characters from page one. So in this story, you understand exactly what our main character, cafe owner Penny, says when she complains about how rough it is to go on first date after first date, never ending. And you can understand why when handsome Francesco brings his number after someone prompts him to leave it. She's like, oh, that's just like a petty thing. He doesn't want me to talk to him. Then she runs into him again, and they start to fall in love. And that sounds great. She soon realizes that maybe her upside down dating life has changed, but then she meets another wonderful new man, and then another. So now she's stuck in a love square, and she's going to feel cornered to find the one. If you're a fan of Vari McFarlane, then this is a great read for you, because it really explores those darker themes kind of in her life. Not that it's dark, but it goes there, it gets really emotional. And I think even though we discover several of these love interests, the key is really about trusting herself and finding that within her. Next is Love and Color by Bolu Babalola. We're very excited. What a beautiful cover. So Bolu is British Nigerian, and she has the most amazing bio, which I'll just read a sentence or two from. She said she's a self-coined rom-connoisseur, and she writes stories of dynamic women with distinct voices who love and are loved audaciously. She's a big believer in women, both Beauty and the Beast, and she is not a fan of writing her own bios. You go check out her Twitter at @bbebs, because she's really, really hilarious. This is a debut story collection retelling myths, folktales, histories around the world. Love and Color is the UK Sunday Times bestseller, and it hit the first week. So this is just so fun, a celebration of romance in its many splendid forms, magical folktales of West Africa, Greek myths, reimaginings. And what's really exciting is she tells stories that are kind of unknown to US audiences, and you feel really fresh. And the majority of the characters are Black, so she's showcasing Black love here. And Jessie Burton, author of The Muse, said inventive, intimate, witty, and wise romance will never be dead, and as long as she's writing it. Next, we have actor H. Eve Brown. I know you guys are so excited about this one, and before anyone asks, I want to know too, the e-galleys are coming any day now, so I know it's not on there, but very, very soon. So this is the third and last in the series of Talia Hibbert's books that revolve around the Brown sisters. So we had Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Get a Life, Chloe Brown. They're both library read selections, and you're gonna, this is the last sister, but don't worry, you'll see previous characters, so you won't feel sad at all. And this is just another great one from Talia. We love her. Eve is the third sister. She's very flighty and free-spirited. Her parents want her to grow up, and she's gonna prove herself. So she goes to this Airbnb to get a job as a chef, and the owner, who's very serious and perfectionist, he's like, absolutely not. And then Eve accidentally, quote on accidentally, she really did hit Jacob with her car, and now she's determined to stay and help him run this B&B, but no matter if he wants her there or not. And it's got a little like B&B in the country, so it's kind of Hallmark movie vibe, but both main characters are autistic, so you get that inclusive romance that Talia's so good at doing. And, you know, just, you'll have to go check out Talia's Instagram takeover she did for us, because it was so lovely. And we always enjoy, it's just a super delight to read these books. Next, A Princess for Christmas by Jenny Holiday, coming in October. So really right around the corner, but it's perfect for Christmas, and it's new to the Avon trade list. She's just an award-winning author who has the perfect surname for Christmas writing. And in this, we get the ultimate holiday romance that gives you the warm fuzzies. We have Leo Rishi, who lives in New York. He's a cab driver, and he's taking care of his little sister, and he's got like the world on his shoulders. And he picks up a woman in a fancy dress that needs to be rescued. She turns out to be a legitimate princess who is kind of running from this past and trying to bring her country into a new future, but her dad's not really emotionally there. She's got to turn everything around. So they kind of take up together, become unlikely friends, and Leo and his sister go spend Christmas with Marie, and they start to fall in love. So they go to this other country. It's a gender flip Cinderella story, and it has everything you would want. Princess of a small country, trying to get out of father's shadow, funny, handsome male lead, and a Christmas setting, and her writing's always upbeat and joyful. You know, if you're thinking Genovia, Princess Diaries, that's kind of the feel. And you get, you know, a little heat in there as well. We have this wonderful booklist quote on the side. Next is Wild Rain by Beverly Jenkins. So if you're ready for the second book in Beverly Jenkins' Women Who Dare series, because Rebel was the first one, and it's so amazing, and a pretty unexplored moment in history right after the Civil War. And there's all these cool historical references, which Beverly is so known for doing. If you aren't familiar, Beverly is a much-loved author. She's the recipient of the 2018 Michigan Author Award for the Michigan Library Association, among many, many other accolades. And in this story, we have a woman rancher who's trying to get away from her past and move on, and a man who's a reporter who was escaped slave from years ago travels in to interview her brother, and they kind of find each other, and kind of fate intervenes in this. Praise for Rebel, which was really great. All of these books I'm talking about today do not have to, they can be read as standalone, but in this series, Rebel, before this Entertainment Weekly said, Jenkins knows how to craft a romantic yarn against a historical backdrop with all the attendant power and punch befitting her status as a romance icon. And so I just don't know what else there's to say. It really, she holds up in this next book. Next is Waiting for a Scot Like You by Ava Leigh, coming out in February. This is such a cool concept for the series. This is it was a Union of the Rake series. My Fake Rake and What I Lied to the Duke was last, and she takes inspiration from The Breakfast Club, and it's a classic 80s movie, but with a twist. So the Union of Rakes are a group of young men who met in detention, and this is a retelling of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but we have a twist because Lady Ferris is the fun-loving character, and we have a grumpy Scottish travel partner, McCameron, and she's a widow who's ready for some freedom, and he's serious and doesn't really want to escort her where he's going, but, you know, forced proximity. But it's really smart, sassy, great historical fiction, and strong female characters, but also the heroine's in her mid-40s, so spot the gray hair on the cover. We have a age gap romance. There's also a queer romance subplot, which the author has been seeding throughout the previous books. So this one, we're very excited, and it's such a cool concept for a series, so love 80s movies. So next we have Jane in Love by Rachel Givney, coming out in October. I just wanted to quickly highlight this one because, you know, it has everything we want. We have Jane Austen, time travel, and a romance. Sign me up. So this is a debut novel, which is a twist on Jane's story. She is, you know, writing every day, wants to write, and her mother just is not a fan of this, wants her to put it away. Thinks she never is going to get published. Then she suddenly falls into 200 years forward into present day Bath, England, and she's on the film set of Northanger Abbey. So now she has to decide, once she kind of meets her romantic interest, is she going to stay and be happy, or is she going to go back in time and try to create this legacy that she's seen is actually something that can happen? And we have a wonderful book list starred review for this one, and it's really delightful. You know, everything, it checks all the boxes. So I just wanted to quickly tell you about Jane in Love, which is coming very soon. And just a couple of housekeeping. Yeah, if I had more time, I would be here forever talking about all these great books. Next, we have author Instagram takeovers. All that information is there for you. And next, we'll just go through these quickly. We have virtual author events. All this information is on our website. And we're social. You can find us all there. And I think that's, oh, yep, some more housekeeping, and then I think that's it for me. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Just enchanting books. Thank you so much, Leigh. And now we have Amanda. Amanda is the Assistant Digital Media Manager for Library Marketing. After saying farewell to her home state of Georgia and NYU's Summer Publishing Institute, Amanda spent 4 years under the tutelage of the amazing Virginia Stanley, indeed, at HarperCollins, before joining Macmillan and eventually making her way back to her forever home in library marketing. A longtime lover of libraries, Amanda is excited to share her passion for all things fantasy, sci-fi, romance, and horror. But the truth is, she'll read anything that comes with a good recommendation. Yes. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks, Donna. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Like she said, I am Amanda Roundtree with Macmillan Publishing, and I am so excited to be here to tell you about a bunch of great romances across the spectrum, from heartwarming to steamy. A little bit about us. You can find us everywhere online. Our website is updated daily with all kinds of fun book news. Plus, I hope you'll follow us on social media and sign up for our newsletter to stay in the know. You can also reach us at this email address. Next slide. If you'd like to download Macmillan eGalleys on a device, here's how. The instructions can also be found on our website. Next slide. And for those of you who participate in Library Reads, thank you so much. If you don't know about Library Reads, it's a monthly list of top 10 books voted on by you. You can find more information about Library Reads and how to participate on our website. Next slide. Genre for All is a special website series that I started that highlights all things genre fiction, including romance. So I hope you'll check it out on our website for read-alikes, favorites lists, and more. And with that, we'll go on to the books. Next slide. Make-up Breakup by Lily Menon. Lily Menon is the best-selling YA author Sonia Menon, but decided to go by a new name here for her adult debut because hello, sex scenes. This is the kind of sparkling, uplifting, funny, diverse, own voices rom-com that readers have been loving. Annika, a lifelong believer in true love and happily ever afters, clashes with a fellow app developer who stole her idea after a summer fling in Las Vegas. After he moves into the office next to hers, she starts to realize he might not be as shallow as all his glitz and glamour indicates. This is for fans of The Kiss Quotient, The Hating Game, and The Wedding Date. Next slide. Float Plan, the adult debut from Trish Dollar. This is a slow burn romance that shows starting over doesn't mean forgetting, with two people rebuilding their lives and finding love along the way. After the death of her fiancé, a woman receives a reminder of a sailing trip they were supposed to take together and impulsively decides to go anyway. After a disastrous night on the boat, she decides to hire a professional sailor who's struggling with some disappointed hopes of his own. This is about second chances, finding hope and love, and will be great for fans of One Day in December and Evie Drake Starts Over. And as a bonus, since it also has that great armchair travel, sailing in a beautiful ocean vibe, there's actually a rum punch recipe from the author herself in the images section on Edelweiss, and I may be heading there right after I'm done here. Next slide. Maggie Finds Her Muse by D. Ernst. 48 years old and newly single again, best-selling author Maggie Bliss travels to Paris to overcome writer's block. But her previously undisturbed peace soon goes by the wayside when her charming ex-husband arrives in France for vacation, and a handsome Frenchman appears one morning in her bathtub. Ooh la la. This is charming, uplifting, and funny romantic women's fiction with a second chance at love story, a mother-daughter relationship, and a female independence narrative all in one. Next slide. 10 Rules for Faking It by Sophie Sullivan. What could be better than Sleepless in Seattle meets The Bachelorette? An introverted radio producer gets caught in a hot mic situation complaining about an ex, and now people are lining up to date her, with listeners voting on their favorites. But she finds out that crush she has on her boss just might be reciprocated. Obviously all overwhelming to someone with social anxiety, so she's got her list of 10 rules to fake it till you make it. If you're looking for sweet and funny and fun and refreshing, you're going to want to download this from Edelweiss now. Next slide. Truth, Lies, and Second Dates by Mary Janice Davidson combines sweetness, sass, romance, and murder. An airline pilot has been running from her violent past for a decade, and after her best friend was murdered. But when she finally heads back to her hometown, the buff doctor who's been following the cold case will have to fight his attraction to rule her out as a suspect. Publishers Weekly calls it raucous and riveting, and readers will love her smart, laugh-out-loud style. Next slide. Follow Me Darkly by Helen Hart. This is for all the contemporary erotica, 50 Shades readers out there, and we all know there are millions. A wholesome farm girl from Kansas is trying to make it in the big city when a blue-collar billionaire with dark secrets sweeps her off her feet and opens up a side of her that she can only face in the dark. This is the first in a series that will be perfect for fans of Sylvia Day. Next slide. Stroke of Luck by Opal Carew, a standalone erotic romance about an extravagant debt and a three-way relationship deal to pay it off. The arrangement was only supposed to last a month, but soon our heroine will find herself falling in love with both of her saviors, the surly college ex-boyfriend and his kind, empathetic business partner. But worry not, Publishers Weekly says Carew offers plentiful thrills for readers looking for spicy romance that doesn't leave the characters at the bedroom door. Next slide. The Princess and the Rogue by Kate Bateman. This is the last in her Bow Street Bachelor's Regency series. We have a Russian princess in disguise and the Earl who's determined to protect her after a case of mistaken identity leads to a smoldering kiss in a brothel. Pick this one up if you love forced proximity trope, protective heroes, independent heroines, and a side of thrills with your historical romance. Next slide. A Highlander is Coming to Town by Lauren Trentham. This is the next in her contemporary rom-com Highland Georgia series, and what's better than a Highlander during the holidays? This small-town Christmas celebration will bring together old traditions and new as our protagonists put past hurts behind them to embrace an unexpected love and future. Next slide. Looking for a Cowboy by Donna Grant, who writes just about every genre of romance you can think of. Here we go west in the next book in the Heart of Texas series, featuring a cowboy with a weakness for redheads and a PI who needs his help investigating a shady adoption agency. Next slide. A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. You're probably familiar with her mega best-selling A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and if you read them yourself, you'll know they are pretty steamy. The series was originally published as YA, but Bloomsbury has moved them to the adult side and repackaged them to pave the way for this new book, a continuation of the series that sits firmly in adult, that follows the previous protagonist's sister as she struggles to find a place for herself in her new Fae world. And the one person who ignites her temper more than any other is the only person who can help her stop a new war between the human and Fae realms. Original fans of the series are going to be so excited, especially since the series has aged up alongside them. And this will be a great time to introduce the world to a whole new set of fantasy romance readers. Next slide. Back in the Burbs by Avery Flynn. This is the first in a 3-book series that'll all release in 2021. And each book will feature a heroine in a different age demographic, which I think is a really fun idea. In this book, a single woman has won a house out in the suburbs in a competition, but she has to renovate it within 1 month or risk forfeiting it. Enters sexy but infuriating contractor / neighbor who turns out will get the house if she loses it. And we get to watch as sparks and paint fumes fly. Hand this to fans of The Hating Game or When Life Gives You Lululemons. Next slide. Meet Me in Bombay by Jenny Ashcroft follows 2 lovers who meet in Bombay but are soon torn apart by World War I, with only the promise they'll meet in Bombay again to sustain them. Set during the historic opulence of pre-World War I India, the lush descriptions are a sensory feast for any reader who craves a heart-melting love story, while World War I stories are on the rise after the huge success of the movie 1917. And it's one to fans of Beatrice Williams, Lauren Willig, and Karen White. Next slide. The Little French Bridal Shop by Jennifer Tupee is a debut about a woman who returns to her hometown and on a whim enters a local bridal shop where she's obviously presumed to be a bride. And after she kind of decides what the heck and buys a gown, word of her upcoming nuptials spreads through the town like wildfire and reaches the ear of a childhood friend who could have been more if they'd taken a different paths in life. She's caught in this epic web of lies, but she'll have to face some difficult truths before she can embrace family and open her heart to finding love. This will be great for fans who are looking for the wholesome and heartwarming feeling of Hallmark and Lifetime movies. Next slide. Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell is a debut that is ancillary justice meets Red, White, and Royal Blue about 2 princes forced into a political marriage to strengthen ties between their planets. But all is not well within the empire, so together they must prove that their union is strong while uncovering a possible conspiracy. This is a really fun mix of slow burn LGBTQ romance with gripping galactic political intrigue that'll be perfect for readers of Lois McCaster Bujold and Becky Chambers. Next slide. Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune, author of The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I know was on a lot of librarians' favorite lists. This new book is a contemporary fantasy with T.J. Klune's signature quirk and charm about a ghost who refuses to cross over and the ferryman he falls in love with. While it's got this great queer romance, it's also about grief and hope and living life to the fullest. The author himself is queer, and he believes it's important now more than ever to have accurate, positive queer representation in stories. If you're looking for a story with wit, warmth, and empathy, I hope you'll check this one out. Next slide. And last for me is historical romance, The Devil in Her Bed by Kerrigan Byrne, about an earl in secret service to the crown and a countess who's trying to hunt down those responsible for the death of her family. They're thrown into each other's path, and secrets and thrills and kisses abound. Kerrigan does a great job with fierce heroines and layered emotional depths within these wonderful love stories. She's one that I'm always searching for the manuscript as soon as it's available, so I hope you check her out along with her extensive backlist. Next slide. And that is it from us. I hope you'll check us out online and social media for even more great books. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm scribbling notes like crazy. Okay, yay. Let's welcome Beth Atwater. Beth buys adult fiction and DVDs as a collection development librarian for Johnson County Library. In other words, she has her dream job. Beth's also a lifelong romance reader, a Beverly Jenkins enthusiast, us are, and Beth is this year's winner of ALA's prestigious Allie Beth Martin Award, which recognizes a public library librarian who has demonstrated extraordinary range and depth of knowledge about books and other library materials, and a distinguished ability to share that knowledge. Congratulations. Beth and her husband live in Kansas City with their tiny spaniel, Beth tells us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. All right, if you guys are ready to start, I am ready to start. First and foremost, I just want to do a little housekeeping. Each slide is going to offer a core title and a current title for several different romance genres. And I was a little ambitious with the number of slides I wanted to provide, so my descriptions are going to be pretty brief. Next slide, please. All right, looking at contemporary romance, we're talking about titles that take place in the modern era. The classic that I'd like to offer is Fancy Pants by Susan Elizabeth Phillips, which came out in 2005. It's an opposites attract, where a British socialite meets a Texan alpha male. The current title I'd like to offer is You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria, which came out this year. It stars a soap star who tries to escape her very public breakup by taking a role in a streaming rom-com being filmed all the way across the country. Surprise, her co-star is a famous telenovela actor. Next slide, please. All right, romantic suspense is where adrenaline meets romance. Classic that I'm offering is a classic series, in fact. It's the Troubleshooter series, which ran from 2000 to 2017. The series features Navy SEALs, FBI counterterrorists, and personal security cards. Some Kind of Hero is the final book in the series. The current series I'm offering is the Deep Ops series, which started in 2018. It's on its 4th book so far. Hidden is actually the 1st book in that series, and it features a journalist. The rest of the series also features undercover cops and retired Navy SEALs, because Navy SEALs come up often in romantic suspense. Next slide. Okay, so romantic comedy is of course the cross-section between comedy and romance. The classic I'd like to offer is Bet Me by Jennifer Crusie, which came out in 2004. It's one of my all-time favorites. Minerva gets dumped just before her sister's wedding, but despite overhearing her ex make a bet with his friend Cal that he can't sleep with her, she decides to string Cal along just so she doesn't have to go to the wedding alone. A current title that is also a rom-com is Red, White, and Royal Blue, which came out in 2019. In 10 years, this will probably be a classic of the genre. In it, the president's son falls for the Prince of England. It's an enemies to lovers. Next slide. Okay, cozy contemporary romance. I will have to admit, I've never heard anybody else call it cozy romance, but it's not possible that I was the one that invented that, so I'm just gonna go with it. It's about place and revisiting a group of friends moreover than just about the specific couple. The subgenre ranges from sweet to spicy. A classic in this series is the Cedar Cove series, which came out from 2001 to 2011. There are 12 books in that series, and it's set in a small coastal town. Hallmark actually made a TV show out of this. The first book features a local judge who falls for the town's newspaper editor. A current book series, Haven Point series, that's similar to that, is actually a suite series that started in 2014. It takes place in a lake town. Summer at Lake Haven, which came out this year, is book 11, and it features a small town girl who falls for a British visitor. Next slide, please. For historical romance, we are looking at anything that took place pre-20th century. At least that's the traditional definition of historical romance. But now we often see settings in the 20s and 30s. The classic I've mentioned here is by Beverly Jenkins. It came out in 1996 and takes place in pre-Civil War America. Hester gives shelter to runaway slaves, and Galen is helping the Underground Railroad. Of course, they find love. A current title I'd like to mention is Daring and the Duke, which came out this year by Sarah MacLean. It is set in England in the 1830s, and it's the third in the Bare Knuckle Bastards trilogy. Grace is the illegitimate daughter of a duchess. Ewan is the illegitimate son of a duke. And despite a history of betrayal, they fall in love again. Next slide. Okay, Regency romance. Regency romances take place during or around the Regency era, which is usually the first 2 decades of the 1800s. King George at that time had spent too many years drinking out of a lead cup and was not quite right, and his son took over as regent. Those books also often focus on love and love matches despite the social constraints of the marriage market. A classic of the genre is pretty much any romance written by Georgette Heyer. Fair warning, she also wrote mysteries. She wrote from the 1920s to the 1960s. And The Grand Sophie, which came out in 1950, is very similar to Jane Austen's Emma. Sophie stays with family, solves all of their problems, and eventually falls for her cousin. A current offering is the Bridgerton series, which despite having come out between 2000 and 2006, has a number of spin-offs that continue to this day. It originally started as an 8-book series about 8 siblings who each fall in love. Netflix has a series coming out this year. It does not have a release date, but it's still promised 2020, featuring all of the siblings from the original Bridgerton series. Next slide, please. Paranormal romance. So romance with supernatural characters or themes. The classic I'd like to offer is the Dark series, which started in 2005 and is still continuing to this day. It has 30 books so far. Carpathians are featured. They are an ancient near immortal race that mate for life. The current series that I'd like to offer is the Honey Badger Chronicles, which started in 2018. We are on the 3rd book so far. Shelley Lawrenson is the author, and she authors several successful adrenaline romances featuring shapeshifters. In this case, the series is about badgers, were-badgers. She also has a series about wolves, bears, hyenas, and lions. Next slide, please. All right, so inspirational romance are clean romances with a moral dilemma. They're often Christian fiction. The classic of the genre I'd like to offer is the Heritage of Lancaster County trilogy, which came out in 1997 and 1998. They are Amish romances, which some of us fondly call bonnet rippers, but Amish romances have a lot of the features of cozy romances in that you are there for the setting as much as the characters. This one has elements of mystery. Current series that is also inspirational romance, I'd like to offer Misty River romances, which there are 2 full books in that series, 1 in-between book so far. Becky Wade, the author, is a previous Christie winner. These are also cozy romances with characters that are all returning to their hometown. Next slide, please. Romantica. So Romantica is erotic romance. The term, the first time I heard it, was coined by Alora's Cave, which is a publisher that is no longer in business, but several authors coming from the Alora's Cave publisher are still writing. One of those is Sylvia Day, who wrote the classic Crossfire series. Book 1 is the one featured here. The series follows the same couple and ends with an HFN and not necessarily an HEA. So a happy for now, not necessarily a happily ever after. But the series was wildly popular. And the current offering I'd like to talk about is Fallen Saint, which came out in 2020. It's book 1 of a proposed trilogy, starring a billionaire philanthropist with a secret who falls for a reporter. That may sound familiar, but it still works. Next slide, please. All right, so lastly, I'd like to talk about new adult romance, which focuses on the coming of age experiences people have between 18 and 26. So first love, college, or leaving home. The classic in this series, or the classic series in this subgenre, is the Rosemary Beach series, which came out in 2012 to 2013. There are 3 books in that series. and it features a wealthy group of friends who fall for people who are off limits. Think 90210 set in the South. The current offering I'd like to talk about is the Briar U series, or Briar U. It's what happens when you learn books by reading instead of listening. In 2018 it started, and this is book number 2, but can also be a standalone. All of the characters are at the same college. In this case, this character is the daughter of the college hockey coach, and she falls in love with someone from the other team. Next slide, please. And that's it for me. I'd like to remind everybody, happily ever after, happy for now, or not a romance. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Beth. What a great approach. Our next expert is Amy Alessio, who is an award-winning librarian with a black belt in karate. She writes librarian reference books, including the co-author Pop Culture Programs published by ALA. Amy's fiction includes the Amazon best-selling Alana O'Neill Mysteries, which include vintage recipes. Amy also writes paranormal romance under another name, and she was the 2019 VP of the Passionate Inc. chapter of RWA. Amy teaches graduate-level young adult literature and conducts webinars on book trends and social media. Amy is also a treasured romance reviewer for Book Mysteries too. Learn more amyalessio.com. Thanks for being here, Amy.
Thanks so much, Donna. Did everyone here double their TBR list after listening to all these great titles today? I have to say, though, that I'd read all the titles except 2 from Beth, so clearly she and I like the same kind of books. Next slide, please. All right, so I do have a little bit of overlap with Beth and some of the other presenters, but I'm going to go ahead and start talking about surprising second chances, which is a trend that I see. I do love the second chance trope, but I don't usually like cheater books, and Rashonda Tate Billingsley book is actually a cheater book that I loved. This is about Shannon and Jay Lovejoy. They're a power couple. They have a podcast. They're hosting this very expensive couples retreat on an island. The only problem is that Shannon just caught Jay cheating, and now she wants a divorce. But there is no way that they can get out of this weekend. So they show up there and they have to make nice and pretend like they're getting along. And then Jay's new girlfriend shows up at the island. You know, we all like a good closed door mystery, but this one is a little extreme. So she won't leave them alone. And Shannon decides she's just going to go have it out with her, and she finds her dead in her hotel room. And worse than that, Jay is leaving her room. So this has turned from this second chance marriage romance to romantic suspense very quickly, and they are suddenly on the run. I really like this one. It was a lot of fast-paced fun. It was full of surprises, and I just really like Billingsley. It's nice to see her back writing again, so don't miss that one. As Beth mentioned, You Had Me at Ola is by Alexis Daria, who's an award-winning author. If you're not familiar with Daria, Priscilla Oliveras and Mia Sosa, you should be. 3 rising Latinx authors who have some wonderful, fun marketing initiatives. You might want to get to sign up to follow one of theirs. And so many fun things about this one. And under my notes, I had fans of Susan Elizabeth Phillips will like this one. And I had to laugh that Beth had it paired with Susan Elizabeth Phillips. So definitely a fun story. And I got to review The Roommate for Book List. And this one is another one I never thought I'd enjoy, where the hero is a porn star. I really like how this one is handled. This is a debut novel, so I'm excited to see the next ones from Rosie Denon. So Clara moves from New York to LA, hoping to become more with her longtime best friend Everett. So I read this and I thought, okay, this is a friends to lovers trope. Absolutely not. He drops her off and says, oh, sorry, I'm leaving this summer, but you will get along with my new roommate, Josh. Well, at first, Clara doesn't understand what Josh's job is until somebody clues her in and she watches his movies. So in the meantime, he encourages her to stop going along with her family's expectations, to get in touch with this aunt who's kind of the black sheep of the family. And then she helps him get out of a bad contract with his porn company. And it's handled very respectfully rather than salacious aspects of the business. And so then he decides to he and Clara come up with this website that does demonstrations about pleasure for women. So a lot of things to like about this story for sure. And my favorite part is that their romantic relationship burned slowly. I wasn't expecting that. I thought, ooh, this is going to be hot erotica. It burned slowly, and I loved it. And I said, this one is similar to Christy Craig or Susan Elizabeth Phillips. Again, lots of humor. Next slide, please. Some great fantasy romance coming out here. I'm going to start with Lost Book of the White that came out last week. This is a follow-up to the Red Scrolls of Magic, and this is about Magnus Bane and Alex Lightwood. And this series is aimed more at adults, but you'll find it's actually a bestseller in teen LGBTQ series right now. And this is Magnus and Alec when they just adopted their warlock son Max, and suddenly someone breaks into their New York apartment and steals the powerful Book of the White. So now they need to get that book back, but they do have to have someone babysit. It's kind of fun to see this. So we've got fantasy, we have action, we have this terrific couple, and plenty of humor. So these are written by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Shue. It's a lot to enjoy on this series, one of my favorites. Then we have Kathy Lyons, who's another Illinois author, and I am from the Chicago suburbs, and I love to see Illinois authors, but also she's excellent. She also writes as Jade Leigh, if you're not familiar with her. And this is her Where Geeks Save Wisconsin. I mean, what's not to like about that title and cover, right? So we have Josh Collier, who discovers he's a werewolf. And there's been a whole bunch of these I've noticed ever since the Ancestry DNA things have become so popular. All of a sudden, everybody's discovering they're shifters. So of course I sent mine in, and I did not discover I was a werewolf, but in this case, Josh did. And he is a werewolf, and he is whisked away to help this werewolf group fight off demons because they're having IT issues. See, nobody is safe from the IT issues. And it's fun to see these two kind of opposites attract. We've got the nerd aspect, we have the rom-com. This is a fun male-male romance, plenty of humor with Kathy Lyons as always. And the third one I'm going to talk about is Deal with the Devil by Kit Rocha. This came out with Tor, and this is a part of the first one of their new Mercenary Librarian series. Do I need to explain any more, or is that enough to sell all of you? So Mercenary Librarians, which I absolutely love that term even. So Nina is an information broker, and she's got a whole team of mercenary librarians, and they need to save, and I'm quoting, the hopeless in a crumbling America. So yeah, that doesn't seem too futuristic anymore, does it? And so she, of course, meets Knox, and they need to work together to save the world. And wonderful, we've got female heroine, and again, mercenary librarians. All right, please, next slide. All right, diverse plots and situations in historical. Finally, we're seeing more of this, and I'm so excited. I'm going to start with The Duke Who Didn't, which is coming out later this month. It's going to be available in print and audio in addition to ebook. This is independently published by Courtney Milan. This is about Miss Chloe Fong, who 3 years ago told her childhood sweetheart that he could only talk to her again once he was serious, and then he disappeared. But now he's back, and you think, okay, he's serious, he's ready to win her heart. No, well, he's not serious, but he is ready to win her heart, and he does have a couple family things that he didn't tell her about, including that he's a duke. So plenty of humor is going to be coming in this one. Lots of historical research went into it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's so refreshing to see different ethnicities in the historicals. It's so much fun. I'm going to talk about The Truth About Dukes by Grace Burrows, and I am always saying to Donna that what comes through with a lot of the Burrows books, and I've been reading hers since they first came out, is her background with family law. So we usually have great romances, some nice steam, great funny dialogue, but then there is going to be these real like heart-rending family situations. And so then this one is no exception. So Robert was put away in a private asylum because he has seizures, and he met Constance Wentworth, who had a baby when she was a teenager. And this is when their families don't know some of these secrets, and they meet again later. All right, and I think I'll skip to the next slide. You will have my list. I show that I am almost out of time. I do want to ask if anybody wants to comment is what is appealing about mafia romances, because I'm seeing so many of them now. And the Van Dyken series is no exception. And then I also see paranormal bullies, which is covering a whole bunch of trends. So in that you can see an alpha bully, which is werewolves, which is new adult, which is steamy, and also the bully trend. And I think I'll move to my last slide. You're all going to get a list of mine. The one I want to mention in particular here is Standoff, which is inspirational romantic suspense, but I liked it because it didn't have a heavy hand. Brooke Danvers is on the Natchez Trace Park Ranger, and that is her job, and she has to solve her father's murder. A wonderful setting, unusual police procedural that we don't normally see, and great tension with a second chance with her childhood boyfriend. So please take a look at my list to see these other ones that I didn't get to talk about, and thank you so much for including me today.
Oh, that's wonderful, Amy. Thank you so much. So helpful. Lots more on this to come. Thank you, everyone out there, for your wonderful questions and enthusiasm. We will get back to you. I want to thank all the panelists, Margaret, Leigh, Amanda, Beth. This was so cheering and so much fun. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, so don't worry, it will all be there. The title list, your certificate of completion, and the video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit us at booklistonline.com/webinars. You can view archives of past webinars, including all our romance webinars, and register for upcoming ones like Booklist Graphic Novel Panel Part 2. Type the tiny bit.ly register for GN Panel 2 to register now. If you don't already read the Booklist Reader, please do. Booklist contributors post daily about all things books in Libraryland, and in September you're going to see lots of romance posts. It's going to be great. Do you know that Booklist content is freely available to everyone until the end of this month? Start reading with our digital edition, a format that pairs the page-by-page reading experience of print with the convenience of online access, and with us at home, it is convenient. This is all at booklistonline.com. You also, with your subscription, you get print, which we continue to produce, and they're beautiful. Online, digital, and archive access by taking advantage of this special webinar offer to get Booklist for only $75. We would be so grateful for your support. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more big thank you for a wonderful program to HarperCollins Publishers, Sourcebooks, Macmillan Library, and Beth and Amy, our librarian experts. See you next time, everyone.